Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we are going to be reviewing a film that was supposed to be wide released in theaters, but due to the pandemic, got moved over to Netflix, and that is the comedy The Lovebirds. Now, when I saw the first trailer for this film, I actually was genuinely kind of excited for it because I like Kumail Nanjiani. I think he's a very underrated comedian, but he is starting to kind of blow up now with Silicon Valley, The Big Sick. He got incredibly buff for the Marvel's Internals that's supposed to have been coming out this year. I don't know if it's still coming out this year or if it got pushed to next year because of everything going on. But I mean, it's almost like he's photoshopped onto a ripped body now. It looks so weird that he got super ripped. But I love his comedy. I love his banter. I love how he just kind of riffs. And then you also have Issa Rae, who I don't know that well, but I know that she's a very big up and coming comedian as well. She's got her own TV show called Insecure, which apparently is a very good show. I personally have not seen it, but the trailer, I mean, it looked a lot like the movie Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey to a point, which I didn't mind that movie. I thought the movie was relatively okay for what I saw, or at least remember of it. So watching the trailers of this, I actually got a good kick out of it, and I was actually looking forward to this film. And it popped up on Netflix, so I figured let's just go ahead and pop into it and see exactly what I thought of it. So let's go ahead and jump into the review. So the Lovebirds basically follows two characters, or a couple. You got Lilani, played by Issa Rae, and Gibran, played by Kumail Nanjiani. The movie starts with them kind of the night after their first date together and how they basically are inseparable. And then we jump ahead 4 years later, where they're in that phase where they're in the rut of their relationship. All they do is argue and bicker back and forth, and they decide that it is time to potentially end the relationship. And of course, as they're doing this, they're driving to a friend's party. When they hit a bicyclist, obviously startled by it, they try to help the bicyclist, but he gets up on his bike and he runs away, and they get back in his car, and a cop takes over their vehicle and starts to pursue the bicyclist. He catches up to the bicyclist and in turn runs him over repeatedly, killing the bicyclist, and then just leaves the scene, leaving Lilani and Gibran basically there to look like murderers. And so they run away scared, and it's up to them to try and solve the mystery of who killed the bicyclist before they get arrested. And that is basically the plot of Lovebirds. Now, with these two kinds of comedians, they're very, I wouldn't say loud, but they're very talkative. They talk a mile a minute. They gotta basically always be, they're kind of like sharks. They always have to be moving, and they always have to be talking. And for some people, that can be very annoying, or that can be hilarious, depending on the type of comedy you like. And with this, it's kind of a mixed bag. I will say Kumail does get more of the funnier lines, at least for me. There was a few little. He has this great moment of right when it starts to get a little quiet, or when the conversation stops, he drops this one little zinger in there, and it usually hits most of the time. Issa Rae is doing more of kind of a reactive thing. She's trying to react off of Kumail, and most of the time it works. But there are certain times in the film where you can tell that they're doing a lot of just improvising. But like the director just says, you know what? Just talk randomly for the next minute and just let everyone in the room react to it. And sometimes those scenes can get rather annoying, and you just kind of want them to shut up. There's at least 3 times in the film where they, actually probably more like 3 to 6 times in the film where they just go on this rant, bickering back and forth, or yelling, talking at a person, and they're both going a mile a minute, and you can't understand what either one of them's saying, and you just kind of want to shake them and just tell them to be quiet. Like I said, it works sometimes. It does not work most of the time. But when it is just those two on their own doing their thing, it's comedy gold. They work really well together. Their banters back and forth to each other is really well done. It's just when they're with other people, it just doesn't quite flow the right way, because they're reacting like we're reacting, and you just kind of want that person to just shut them up. The actual plot story that's going on throughout the film, it's very basic. It's one of those things where it's like they're just caught into a middle of a situation that's already happening, and they just get kind of thrown into it. And do we get enough of a story there to really warrant what the film is progressing us through? Not really. Is it something that we care about? Also, no. We're pretty much there to just kind of enjoy the exploits of these two characters and just seeing what next crazy thing they're going to do in order to try and find themselves innocent. It's entirely up to you whether or not you buy into it or not. And depending on how you care about the actors in the film, meaning Kamel and Isa, is whether or not how much you're going to grab a hold of it. Like I said, I was kind of in the middle. I enjoyed most of it, but I was not really gut-busting laughing throughout of it, and I wasn't really eager to like, oh, come on, I can't wait till we get to the next spot. I was just kind of watching it and just seeing what happens. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, in terms of a recommendation, it's on Netflix, and like kind of like I've been saying for the last few reviews, there's not a lot of whole new stuff out there. So if you want to watch something new, like a new comedy out there, and not just watch the same old stuff or other movies that you've probably seen 100 times, then yeah, Lovebirds is something you might want to check out. But if it was like something that where we weren't in the middle of a pandemic and we had a ton of movies coming out every week and everything was back to status quo, this is probably not a film that I would necessarily say go out of your way to go check out and see it, unless you were real big fans of Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani. If you aren't big fans of them, this isn't a film that's really going to make you really want to go out of your way to see this film. So in terms of going to my review score, I'm going to give it a 6.1 out of 10 because, like I said, it's done well. It just kind of depends on how well you like the characters or the actors in that matter. And just kind of going through the comedy of them. Like I said, some of the stuff worked for me, some of it didn't. The story is just kind of blah. So I mean, it could have been so much better than what it was. But it just didn't quite reach it, which almost, I think, benefits it that it did go to Netflix. I think it probably would have been a flop in theaters. But yeah, in terms of recommendation, if you want a new comedy to watch, go ahead and check it out. I'm just saying, don't be expected to be blown away or think it's one of the funniest things you have ever seen, because it's just not going to hit that mark, which really bums me out because Kamel now, he's got this. He did Stuber, which was probably one of the worst films of last year, which, once again, in the trailers looked promising, but just ultimately fell flat. And then he had Men in Black International, which he was the best part of. But ultimately, it also was just kind of fell flat. So sadly, with Kumail, his track record with movies outside of The Big Sick has not really been that great. With Issa Rae, she's still just starting out. I think it's only like her second or third film. So she's probably not going to get looked at as negatively as Kumail. And with Kumail having the internals coming up here, he's going to be in a big cast, so it's not like the focus will be on Kumail in that film. But I'm hoping that movie is as good as everyone's hoping that it's going to be, because he really needs a win after Stuber and now Lovebirds. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we have a horror film that was released in 2019, but like around the world, but didn't really hit the US until early this year. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and then it got moved to Hulu, and that is The Lodge. So that is going to be the next review that pops up. I hope you guys check that out. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.